Hi, I'm Andrew Flusci, your Virginia Traffic and Misdemeanor Defense Attorney. I want to talk to you today about an important trial strategy called excluding the witnesses, or a rule on witnesses. The Virginia Code allows any party or the judge to exclude witnesses from the courtroom when there's a trial going on. And what's the point of that? Well, it forces basically everyone to identify who their witnesses are. That's first, one. Basically, they have to say, well, okay, this officer may be a witness and that person may be a witness, and so they have to leave the courtroom. So you at least have an idea sometimes of who may be going to be called to testify. The most important thing, though, is the witnesses can't sit there in the courtroom and hear the case unfold and perhaps shape their testimony accordingly. Now, I'm not saying that people lie, but some people do. And some people do misremember things, or some people might hear someone give their version and think, oh yeah, that's what I heard too, or that's what I saw too, even though it may not quite be what they saw or what they remember. So our memories are a little bit malleable, and so having witnesses hear each other's accounts of things can shape what they may say, and you don't want that. Frankly, if you're going to have several witnesses in a case, it's much better if their accounts don't line up quite. Then that helps to sow some seeds of reasonable doubt for the judge. The other thing is, it makes it a little more difficult if the Commonwealth, since we're speaking from a defense perspective, if the Commonwealth wants to have what's called rebuttal evidence, then the person that comes in for a rebuttal, as a rebuttal witness isn't there to hear what the main witness said. So for example, let's say you have a law enforcement officer testifying in maybe a marijuana case. The officer testifies to everything, maybe the defense puts on some evidence. The Commonwealth can put on what's called rebuttal evidence. And so if that witness who's offering evidence later on has heard everything that's gone on, again, they can kind of shape their testimony accordingly. And I think that's kind of dangerous. The other thing is it kind of forces everyone to observe the proper procedures and rules for testifying. The way a case is supposed to unfold is the Commonwealth is supposed to have their witness put on their evidence. The defense can cross-examine that witness, or however many witnesses may be, and the prosecutor at their turn can do what's called a redirect. The important thing to remember is the redirect is only limited to what the defense got into on their cross-examination. So the prosecutor gets a chance to clarify something if the defense maybe muddied something up, or maybe the witness didn't get a chance to explain themselves properly. That's the purpose of redirect. The Commonwealth can give the witness another chance to explain a point. But then if you don't have a rule on witnesses, it's possible that the court or maybe a prosecutor might kind of be a little bit roughshod on how they handle the procedure by making people go one at a time. If you have a rule on witnesses where witnesses are physically out of the courtroom, it just gives people a sense of importance about following the procedure and having people testify one at a time, and when they're done, they leave and the next witness comes in. So it's a good practice to have a rule on witnesses, or to exclude the witnesses from the courtroom, to help make sure that people are testifying from their own personal memory, their own personal knowledge of what happened. So that's what a rule on witnesses is. If you're pleading not guilty and having a trial, even if there's only one witness, it makes sense to have an exclusion of the witnesses, because then you can't have a last-minute witness come up. Somebody who was sitting in the courtroom come up and testify. If you've asked to exclude the witnesses, they would no longer be qualified to testify in the case. So it's something to consider if you're working with an attorney, to ask them if you're going to have a rule on witnesses, or if you're working as your own attorney, it's something that you could ask the court to do. Note that it's also something the court or the Commonwealth could ask for. So if you have several witnesses in your case, the Commonwealth could ask for your witnesses to be excluded, and all the witnesses would be. So it's something that both parties or both sides of the equation can ask for. I hope that helps, and if you have a case in Virginia, please give me a call.